Greetings, students. My name is Mr. Little, and today we are here to talk about multiple choice question tips, tricks, and help during the 2021 AP Social Studies exam. So these tips for multiple choice questions apply to any AP Social Science, AP Euro, AP World, AP US. So fear not, I'm here to help you. Now, before we get to the actual AP multiple choice tips, let's go over some AP multiple choice facts. First, it's the first part of the exam. It's worth 40% of your score. It is 55 questions in 55 minutes. So that's pretty tight. But all of these questions are stimulus-based, which means they are questions of 2 to 4 in a set. They're attached to a stimulus, which is a piece of text, an image, a map, a chart, a picture, a graphic, what have you. But you will never see a question that is simply like, oh, here's a fact, tell me about it. Each question will have exactly 4 choices, A through D. And specific to the 2021 digital exam, you will not be able to return to the previous question. We'll talk a little bit more about that and what exactly that means. But those are some basic multiple choice facts for AP Social Studies exams. Before we get to the tips, I must also give you a small disclaimer. Nothing that I can give you here will replace practicing multiple choice questions. You must practice. There is no way to get better besides practicing. This is the way. Sometimes there's also simply no replacing knowledge of the content to answer the question. Sometimes strategies, tips, and tricks and analysis cannot get you the answer. Sometimes you just have to know the content. So please review your facts. This is the way. Stimulus-based questions, they're hard, okay? And no set of advice, no tips or tricks or help I can give you will fit all questions. You must read the question carefully. I'm going to come back to this so many times. You must read the question carefully always. This is the way. Multiple choice stimulus can be scary, but if you stick around to the end of the video after the tips, I will give you some perspective that I think might help assuage some of your fears. All right, let's talk about some tips. All right, tip number 1. Timing, where you got to watch the clock. You will have an average of 1 minute per question. Now, that may seem tight, but you will gain some time inevitably because there will be questions that you know right at the gate, and you can quickly answer those without taking your minute. You will lose time when you read the stimulus of each question set. So you have to balance it out, but watch the clock. You cannot take this test without a clock. Get a watch if you need to, but keep track of the time, especially for the 2021 digital exam, because you cannot go back. You cannot go back and finish a question later. You want to spend 3 minutes tops on a question. If you don't know it, after looking at it for like 3 solid minutes, just guess and move on. That is the best you're going to be able to do because it is better to answer all of the questions than not finish. Even if you're just not sure, sometimes you got to take a shot and hope for the best. Tip number 2, try answering the question first. What do I mean by that? I mean, read the question and try to answer it in your own words before looking at the options, okay? This is very similar to what I tell students about the DBQ, which is the brain dump, which is before you look at the documents, try to answer the prompt on your own. Write down everything you know about it. Try answering the question in your own words before you look at the ABCD. Doesn't guarantee that you'll magically come up with the answer, but it can help get your brain thinking a little bit about the question at hand. Tip number 3, what is the question actually asking? This is another way of saying read the question carefully. Look for time frame references. Is the question asking for an answer in the same time period as the stimulus, or is it asking for a different time period? It may seem silly. I cannot tell you how many times I've seen students pick an incorrect answer because they didn't realize it was asking for a different time period or the same time period. Additionally, look for key terms such as audience or point of view or context. Look for words like immediate or long-term or most or best. One of the things to keep in mind is that multiple answers can be true, but that doesn't mean they are the answer to the question you are looking for, especially if a question says most or best. In that case, they're asking for the most true. Don't be taken in by potentially false answers because they're not the most true or the best answer. So again, read the question carefully, read the answers carefully. Also, tip 3.5, especially if you're not doing the digital exam, you can annotate your multiple choice questions. I would highly recommend when trying to figure out what a question is actually asking, annotate, mark it up as you would a document on a DBQ. Tip number 4, read the source/description of your stimulus. It seems silly to gotta say it, but I'm gonna say it again. When you have a stimulus, you must look at the source. It will tell you so much. The author, the context, the date, it will tell you so much, okay? You want to apply the same level of scrutiny as you would a DBQ source, okay? Historians always look at their sources. It's really important that you do this. For documents that are pictures, for stimuli that are pictures, you have got to read the description of the picture. There is a reason they give you a description of the picture. That's so you can read it. Please, for the love of goodness, just read it. For maps, charts, graphs, look at the key and look at the axes. That's the plural of axis, okay? Look at the data. If you were in math class, you wouldn't try to answer a question about a chart without looking at the chart. So please, you've got to apply a basic level of scrutiny to your stimuli. Tip number 5, look for tone words, especially if it's a written stimulus. So for example, look for words that might give clues to the author's feeling on a subject, very similar to how you would in a DBQ. Look for words that are overly negative or are overly positive. This might give a clue as to how the author or speaker thought about a very certain thing. It might give clues into the context. It might give clues into the point of view. And in particular, if your question is asking about one of those 2 things, looking for tone words can be a quick way to come to an answer. Doesn't mean you don't read the question and the answers carefully, but scan for tone words while you're reading the document. Tip number 6, look for key terms in the question/answers. Again, read the prompt carefully. Look for key terms or themes, big course themes, in questions and answers. For example, if it's asking for the most or the best, all the answers could be factually true, but you're looking for the one that is the most true. And so when you're looking for the one that is the most true, sometimes it helps to think about those learning objectives from the course description. Sometimes those are literally just the answers. So think about key terms, think about learning objectives, think about course themes and how they apply within certain timeframes. And that can help give you a clue to the answer. So for example, if a question is asking about politics, read the source carefully and look for something in there that might indicate politics. However, again, you got to read it carefully. The question might be asking for the opposite of politics. So again, got to read those questions carefully, but look for those key terms while you're reading them carefully. Tip number 7, elimination or 50% is better than 25%. When it all comes down to it, if you really don't know the answer to a question and you've got to guess, 50% chance is better than a 25% chance. Now, oftentimes, 2 to 3 of the answers on an MCQ question will be obviously silly or wrong or factually incorrect. If you can eliminate those, you have a much better chance if you have to guess. That said, don't eliminate recklessly. Read each possible answer for the 1,000th time carefully and try, if you are still not sure, eliminate based on the context of the document. Look for answers that might be outside of the date, the time, or associated with the individuals or places that are being discussed in the question. Again, unless the question is explicitly asking for dates, places, times, groups, and individuals not associated with the document. So got to read these things very carefully. I feel like that could just be the single tip here. Read things carefully. All right, let's talk really quick about some perspective on multiple choice questions. One of the big critiques, multiple choice questions are not reflective of the skills that history can provide that you will use in the real world. I personally have moved away from using multiple choice questions as an assessment tool. But that said, it is not to say that multiple choice questions are bad. Especially stimulus-based multiple choice questions can help you by strengthening your analysis skills in a slightly less intense environment, giving you a possible option to think about a document maybe in a different way. Also, practicing MCQs, stimulus or not stimulus, is a great way to help with content review. So while we may not love multiple choice questions, they are nonetheless helpful, and you should keep practicing them. Finally, let's put the multiple choice on the AP exam in some perspective. Now, I cannot speak for your individual class, but I can talk about the exam in general. And let me just drop a truth bomb, if you will, on you, which is this. You can absolutely fail the multiple choice, get 50% or less, but as long as you can write decently, if your writing is okay, if you can pull a 3 or a 4 out of a 7 on a DBQ, and you bomb the multiple choice, you will still probably pass. The reverse is not true. If you ace the multiple choice and completely bomb the writing, you will not pass. This is why writing is more important than multiple choice. Although, as I said before, multiple choice can help improve your writing, but it should not be the be all end all. But if you are stressing about your multiple choice performance, I'm here to tell you that if you are clearing a 50%, if you're clearing a 70%, that is good. You are on a good pace. If you can clear 50% or 70% and your writing is okay. You do not need 100% to pass the AP exam. This chart, which applies only to the 2018 exam, shows a breakdown of how individuals can pass the exam. And the truth is, for the 2018 exam, you only needed a 46% to pass. That was the lowest passing score. Again, I can't speak to your class grade, but on the AP exam itself, you don't need to get 100% to pass. You don't even need to get a C to pass. You could potentially get a 5 with the equivalent of a C. So when you are reviewing and when you are studying and practicing your multiple choice, always do your best. You always want to try your best. Never give it less, but keep this perspective in mind and don't forget to breathe every now and then. Thank you so much for joining me. My name is Mr. Little, and I'll see you next time.